60 years ago, on December the 8th, 1965, the Catholic Church closed the doors to the public for a historic gathering, the Second Vatican Council. For almost 4 years, bishops and theologians debated how the Church could speak to a rapidly changing world. At only 25 years old, Gianfranco Svidercoschi found himself at the heart of one of the Church's greatest events, experiencing the Council up close. Today, he remains one of the few eyewitnesses who can share his first-hand experience.
It
was truly something new, something incredible. 2,500 bishops walking across St. Peter's Square and entering St. Peter's Basilica, and you could really grasp the universality of the Church. I must say, honestly, that the real council began that evening, on the same day, October 12th, 1962, because it was the Church speaking once again the language of the people, not the lofty, theological, philosophical language that the Church had used for so many centuries. It was the language of ordinary people. John the 23rd said, "Look at the moon up there in the sky. It has come to visit us." And then he spoke about hardships, about people who weep. And he said, "Go back home and give your children a kiss and a caress." And I went back home and caressed my 1-year-old son.
You have to confess where you were when the council began.
That morning, when the council's work opened, I, being curious, went ahead to have a look, to exchange a few words. But then they declared extra omnes, meaning all outsiders had to leave, and I found myself, despite running, stuck halfway inside the basilica. I didn't know where to go, and I could feel the gaze of 2 gendarmes who seemed ready to take action. So, as soon as I found an opening, I slipped away and hid inside a confessional. And there, inside that confessional, the only journalist in the world, I listened to the first debate, which was very heated, especially from the French and German bishops. They demanded that the conciliar commissions not be formed in the same way as the preparatory commissions, which had been made up entirely of curia members. Instead, they wanted the same group of cardinals and bishops to be the ones appointing those members.
Incredible, even as a personal experience. And speaking of those 2,500 council fathers, I'm curious if you can identify or single out anyone, any figure, who already seemed like a prominent figure of the era.
For example, Swenens, who at the end of the first session suggested how to shape the council, distinguishing between church ad intra, the church in itself, and church ad extra, the church in its relationship with the world, which would later become the 2 constitutions, De Ecclesia and Gaudium et Spes.
The change of the council itself, but also the change of the church.
The church changed because the church, as an institution, was no longer what it had been before. The Bible returned once again into the hands of the people, something that never had happened before. There was the liturgical reform. The church opened itself to the world with Gaudium et Spes, which addressed all the problems concerning the lives of men and women, life, family, justice, and also peace and war. After 2,000 years, the church was saying that the Jewish people of both yesterday and today were not responsible for the death of Jesus. Today, with what is happening in the Middle East, I cannot reconcile these 2 religions, Judaism and Islam, with the same spiritual originality that existed back then. This is what the council provoked and created. How for some reason it did not move forward, and how it is now necessary to recover what was the foundation of the council.
So there is still work to be done?
Certainly, yes. Because the very fact, for example, within the church, the relationship between primacy of the Pope and episcopal collegiality has still not been clearly defined.
Exactly. And if it hasn't been done yet, do you think it might be time to convene another event of such magnitude in the church?
To convene one, perhaps not. Also because Francis has already opened many of these issues, but being a typical Jesuit, he has never fully brought them to completion. But he himself says that problems must be opened without necessarily resolving them. And now this Pope finds himself having to deal with the Church situation in which some issues need to be picked up and brought to completion, while others perhaps should not be addressed, but set aside.
Thank you for this wonderful time you've shared with us.
Thank you.